been set up, so I'm just going to finish sorting that out. There we are. So I'll dive straight into this one. What do Anthropic 10-year-old influencers and Meta have in common? They're rewriting how we connect on social media, both online and in real person. So I'll start off with that and just quickly mention to anybody that watches this sort of later on down the line. These are my CR Socials lives where I basically just break down to 2 to 3, sometimes a couple of the biggest headlines within the social media marketing space, just to give you guys a bit of a hint on what's going on, how you can use it to your brand, what some of the platforms are updating, what some certain brands are adopting, and how you can use it within your own personal brand and your own local business, and ultimately focus on getting your marketing skills up there and getting your team doing the same thing, or getting yourself doing the same thing, however you want to adopt it. Now, the first topic I want to touch on for today is AI goes IRL, which is basically, I don't know if you guys are aware, there's a business called Anthropic and also IBM. They've started to launch their own sort of pop-up in real life events. Now, of course, for anybody who knows, in real life events, whether it's your, I don't know, meetups, whether it's conferences, that sort of thing, they've been around for ages. They've been something that a lot of brands have been using. A lot of, any of you guys listen to Alex Mosey, it was a big thing that he did, in-person events. Some huge brands and some huge personal brands do sort of in-person events. It's a great way to build that connection. It's obviously a great way to talk, find out about your audience, find out about your clients, that sort of thing. But to hear AI brands doing it seems a little bit strange. Obviously, AI, it's all online. It's all, basically it's all online. It's easy as that. It's all done over a keyboard. But what, as I mentioned, Anthropic and IBM have started doing is they've launched a pop-up. So they were doing one in, I believe it was New York. They were doing like a Claude cafe sort of thing, so people could go in and obviously speak to, I guess, other people who are AI enthusiasts. I don't think it's on a mass scale now where like everybody's talking about it. So it's not like football or something where it's just like an in-pub conversation. I think there's people that are more into it than others. There's people that like listening about it. There's people who like talking about it. Hello, Zayn, how you doing? So it's probably a nice meetup to happen, especially if you are in that AI space. How's it going, Arnold? Because, as I mentioned, not that many people are talking about it. Now, of course, if you're in the content creation space, if you're in the marketing space, AI is pretty much the central conversation, because so many different people are finding different ways. I would turn 28 on Tuesday, thank you. And they're finding different ways to use it. How's it going, Matt? And finding different ways to make it applicable to their business, to their team. Of course, as a lot of people are probably get scared when we talk about AI, it's coming for our jobs, I'm a big advocate for, if you're early, you're safe. So I'm not going to say if you learn a couple of prompts, you're not at a risk of AI at all. Of course, it's going to depend on your job. But if you're a front runner, if you're learning how to integrate it into your business, into your systems, making sure that you're on top of the game, and that doesn't mean reading every single article, but just making sure you're up to date with it. Some people literally have no idea about prompting, no idea that it can create images for and workflows, that sort of thing. So I don't think it has to be the central of your or the sole focus of your life 24/7, but it's definitely worth, of course, taking a couple of looks at, seeing what other brands are doing. Now, as I mentioned, Anthropic and IBM hosted the first live in-person event for AI brands so that people could meet up, obviously talk about the software, that sort of thing. And they experienced millions of organic impressions through this. So it's without paying for ads, it's without paying for, some big TV show to be there. It was literally, I believe it was run through live. I think the main thing was basically run through live through their channels, live through a couple of other channels. Of course, other people who are there are going to be putting it on live as well. So across the board, you are easily going to be talking. If you've got a couple of thousand people and 25% of them go live, they're going to jump straight on it. Where this is applicable is, of course, it's still part and parcel, it's still something business owners can be doing. Now, whether you've got a personal brand online, whether you're strictly on social media, or whether you have an actual physical destination, you've got a physical brick and mortar business, you can 100% be using these sorts of events. Now, of course, cost-wise and advertisement-wise, I understand that it's much easier for these guys, multi-million-pound companies to run something like this than it would be for, say, John down the street who's running a garage. But at the same time, you do it to scale. So where their advertisement or pre-advertisement might have been targeted globally or, sort of worldwide, globally, worldwide, whatever you want. You can target yours locally. You can target yours locally with flyers. Of course, if you've already running social media, you've already got a good following there, and you've got some good collaborations with other local businesses, you can also put them onto the event as well. Email lists, if you've got your own email list built up, can of course, pump up a campaign for that. So there's loads of different ways that this can be applied for brick and mortar businesses as well as the personal brands as well. So if you've got a webinar event, now, I think the in-person side of this is quite cool because, of course, they're digital AI-based companies. But the whole thing around this is the event itself, is the fact that you are bringing like-minded people together who, of course, like your product, your service, live within the local area or consume your content, whatever it might be. These events can be a massive way for one, if I'm being completely honest, to convert sales, because if you do them over a longer format time, if you say you're doing, something like a webinar or you're doing a masterclass or whatever it is for X amount of hours, the people that are invested in that, who have also invested their time into your short form content, into your written content, probably gone through your website a couple of times, checked out your blog post, whatever it is, they're more than likely, this is their final sort of knock, their final push over the edge of, okay, built the trust, they've been there, I've seen them a lot, yeah, I'm going to buy the product, or yeah, I'm going to give it a test run. Or you might even post an offer, something like that. As I mentioned, if you're doing it in real life event, I'd definitely be centering it around an offer, something like first X amount of customers get a certain amount off, or you run, again, a collaboration with other local businesses that are literally within the same row as you, or on the same street, and you say, if you want to do a giveaway, we can put you in the leaflet, we can have you speak there. There's so many different angles to pitch this from, but it's just really cool that AI-based companies and digital-based companies are starting to put this into their way of speaking to their audience, into a way of growing their followers. And literally, the tools that you need, you can do it all for free if you wanted to. I'd recommend maybe running a couple of ads or something like that over Facebook, Meta, that sort of thing for, localized. But it can literally all be done for free. You push it onto social media, you encourage other people that are attending to do a live stream, to, tweet or to go on threads in real time. And it's going to naturally push that organic flow. It's going to naturally push other people who are in the area, because you can guarantee if you're doing a live, somebody within your local area is probably going to check it out. If you've got followers in your local area, or if you've got a little community, people are going to check it out. People like to support local. It's a nice thing. And then same for your personal brand. If you've been pushing your personal brand online and you big it up, again, you make it this must go to thing, you're pitching an offer or you're pitching something at the end of it, there's an incentive for people to turn up, there's an incentive for people to share it with their followers, with their friends. Look, events can be huge because it gives you sort of like a campaign to run for, rather than just like promote all the time. You've got a key thing that you're pushing everybody towards, is that anticipation, of course, FOMO, all of a bit of FOMO. So yeah, that was just, as I mentioned, that was the AI goes in real life, which I found quite cool. The segment 2, which gets a little bit political, a little bit boring, but I think it's worth a mention, is Meta's EU ad pause. Now, the main reason that this matters is basically Meta has paused all political and social ads. Now, I read up on this, and Google pretty much done the same quite a while back, and I think it's this whole idea of misinformation. They don't want to be too much of a persuader or too much of an influence on the people on the political side of things ultimately, because when it comes to ads, what's going to happen now is it's going to really come down to the people who have got the most money. The people who have got the most money, who have got, the smartest marketers with them, know how to push the ad campaigns and things like that. They probably don't want to be viable for any lawsuits or viable for one sort of pendulum swing that could have been avoided, especially if it's not on the side that they want, if we're being honest. So I found this quite interesting, as I mentioned. So as Meta and their Meta and their ads all in all, and why they're sort of avoiding the EU and the political social side. It also sorry, 2 seconds, guys. I guess as well, this also shows the accountability side of things for Meta. So it does sort of get to show that it's a good image for their brand that they're doing something like this. It's good image for Meta, for Mark, for whatever it is, for Facebook, Instagram, that sort of thing. That they're taking that responsibility, that they're sort of putting their hands up and saying, look, we don't want to be responsible for this happening. We don't want to have any influence over this. So we're going to stop the ads. It does look good for them. I still think people are, whatever political side you might be on, there's still going to be ways and means around how these not agendas, but how certain parties are going to push either side. And it's a good time as well, I guess, to sort of audit your ad compliance, making sure that whatever ads you're running, whatever target you're auditing, to sort of run it through and make sure that you're in line with everything, because what you don't want to do is sort of push for the sort of advocacy or run against anybody, or push it towards one side or the other, and then Meta end up looking at your ad, pulling them down, you get penalised for it, you can't run ads for X amount of time. It's not something that you want to do. Is making sure your brand, your social media sort of impact and campaigns are running in compliance with everything. It's a good time to just sort of sit back for a second and audit it when they make these sort of mentions. Have you got any political figures, or have you got any political relevance within your ads? Are they going to get flagged by Meta? If they do get flagged by Meta, what's your arguing case going to be? Or are they even going to give you an arguing case? Is it just going to be a case of this ad's bringing you X amount of thousands or X amount of hundreds even per day, and it just gets took down because you didn't take that time to audit it? So as I mentioned, a little bit of a boring one, a little bit more for the people that are running ads on Meta, but like I say, I just find it interesting because they've literally left it comes in place, I think it came in place today, the 10th of October, and they've literally left it. Google did it, as I mentioned, ages ago when it was first announced that this is what was going to be happening, and then Meta have just like run it, and then flip the coin on the last side. So now this is the one I really wanted to talk about, because this one shocked me when I saw it. I genuinely, honest, couldn't believe this. Now, does anybody know what Gen Alpha influencers are? I'd love to know if anybody else is aware of Gen Alpha. It was the first time I heard Gen Z, I've heard millennials, I've heard baby boomers, I've heard all this sort of stuff. It was the first time I have ever come across the term Gen Alpha. And basically what this is these are, Gen Alpha is basically kids between the age of 16 to the oldest Gen Alpha can be 15, which is mental. But there's basically, these guys are influencers. These Gen Alpha, they're Gen Alpha influencers, which is mental because the oldest age they can be is 15. And obviously most social media platforms, most social media places only allow people from 16 onwards, which of course means that their parents have set up the account and blah, 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 blah. We're here to judge parenting. People are on social media at an early age, or on social media at an early age. But what's mental is these guys aren't just influencers. They're actually already being approached by brands. They're already being approached by mainly, I will say, sort of fashion brands. They are mainly being sort of targeted by, I think there was 2 mentions on here of 2 brands that are targeting them. But they're already getting brand deals at the age of like 6 to, as I mentioned, the oldest will be 15, but of course there's some that aren't even double digits yet. They're already landing brand deals at such a young age because of the influence that they're having. Now, of course, it's as I mentioned, these accounts aren't actually theirs. These accounts are going to be their parents who have set them up for them. But of course, ideally, it's managed by the parent. That's what I'd like to think, because unfortunately, we all know the brilliant side of social media. We also know the not so brilliant side of social media, which we won't get into on this platform. But yeah, there's literal 6-year-olds out there that are getting paid by, as I say, majority of the brand deals are focused around fashion because of the type of content that these guys are consuming. They're obviously producing openly. They are actually producing like unboxing and those sorts of things. So brands have jumped on it and started to think, oh, okay, the next way we can start targeting these guys is by getting these influencers to push our products, to do a collaboration with us, get our brand in the eyes and ears of these sorts of the younger minds. Ultimately, that's what they're after. They're after the next wave of people that are going to be purchasing their products. So of course Gen Alpha makes Gen Alpha makes a perfect target to go for, because you're going to have these kids growing up between the ages of sort of 6 and 15 going straight in for that product. So they're already going to be aware of these sorts of brands, of these sorts of, look, again, a lot of it's fashion. A lot of it does seem to be centered around fashion from what I read. I did keep a bit of it open up here, so we'll refer back to the... Yeah, so the difference now may be just how deeply woven into the childhood influencers. It's going well. Influencers has become 56% of Gen Alpha kids watch hauls and unboxing videos from influencers. So similar sort of age, so they're obviously all jumping to the same. How you doing, Zayab? You all right? I'm good, thank you, Jack. About yourself? How you been? Just talking on so quick question for the guys that are here now. Do you guys know what a Gen Alpha is? Anybody? Because when I first come across this term, how's it doing, the Bestie channel? You're all, how's it going, Jack? You're all, yeah, Gen Alpha, please. Anybody aware of what this is? Did anybody know? Has anybody seen it before? Because honestly, it was creating my little notes for this live today, and I come across it. I was like, what is a Gen Alpha? What is this? Like I say, I've heard of Gen Z, I've heard of millennials, I've heard of baby boomers. Gen Alpha, first time ever coming across it. I'd love to know if anybody else has heard it before, because this was a new one for me. Doesn't look like it, which is fine. So ultimately, Gen Alpha is just anybody. The oldest they can be is like 15, so it's just like another wave of Gen Zs. I think that's what they're all going to be called now. It's going to be Gen Alpha, and then it's going to be Gen Beta, and then I don't know who comes up with the names either. That's another thing. Like I don't know which one I fall into. I'm 97, so I don't know what I fall into. I don't know if I'm Gen Z. I don't know if I'm another one, but I don't know who comes up with the names, because I never get to vote on the name either. Just one day you just start getting called this wave of people, and we just have to accept it. It's weird. It's a weird world that we live in. But so it's very difficult for me to say, like, the quick wins that people can experiment with these, because obviously it's a little bit touch and go unless your child is willing. And I would personally, as a parent, I don't know how willing I would be for more kids to be doing these sorts of brand deals. In my opinion, I wouldn't be the happiest with my child being on social media at such a young age. Coming to 15, bit more understandable. Lower 6, not a chance. Like, it's not, to me personally, it's not going to be happening. So in terms of quick wins and how this is applicable to you guys, it's all going to depend on the type of business that you are. But 97% of businesses are going to be targeted towards people sort of 16, 18 and upwards, people who actually have some sort of buying decision within the household, who have their own money. Because if you're trying to sell a product to a 6-year-old, you're not selling the product, in my opinion, you're not selling the product to the 6-year-old, you're selling the product to the mums and dads, and making sure, or you're selling it so hard to the 6-year-old that he doesn't leave the mums and dads alone. So either way, it's going to work, I guess. But for applying it to your brand, again, it's all going to depend on what your business is, what your service is, what products you're offering. Are they suitable for kids? If they are suitable for kids, then you might be able to reach out to the parents of these Gen Alpha influencers. You might be able to cut a deal that way. There might be, like I say, a good way to get in touch with them to market your product. Or you could do what a lot of brands are starting to do now, which is co-host content, which is basically where parents and kids can sort of watch in and engage together, so that the purchase decision maker, which is the parent who's going to be buying the stuff for the kid, can have the input on both sides. I just, like I said, I just find it mental that there were 6-year-olds on social media getting approached by these brands. Like, how they're doing it, I don't know, because I don't care if you're a 6-year-old with like 10 million followers. There's really no way I'm dropping into somebody's DM. So I don't know how the brands are doing it. I hope it's all above board. I don't want to look into that side of it too much because it just seems a little bit weird. So those are the three main talking points for this week. Because, as I say, I just sort of wanted to see what we had going on in the world. And yeah, so AI goes in real life. So like I mentioned, the events, these sort of micro events, and how you can actually get sort of millions of impressions by doing these sort of little micro events in a smart way, getting your local community or your customers, whatever it is, however you're going to pitch it to build up your types of event. Meta's EU ad pause so they don't have any sort of political impact. They've obviously put a pause on that. And then finally, the Gen Alpha influencers and how they're sort of redefining or becoming the next wave of influencers, of course. It's going to be happening, and just like a lot more generation grew up, we wanted to be footballers, then we wanted to be YouTubers, and of course these guys are going to grow up and want to be influencers because the lifestyle and the lifestyle looks amazing, and it looks super easy as well because a lot of the ones that you see, record a couple of videos, and I promise you there's a lot more hard work that goes into it than that. I'm not sitting here slagging off some influencers, I would, but like, I'm not sitting here slagging all of the influencers off because I know the reps that they would have had to put in to get to that point, and the difficulty and the sort of resilience that you need. Some of them it's stupid. I'm not gonna lie. There was a couple of videos I come across the other day on TikTok. I was like, I don't understand social media. I give up on it. 6, 7. It took me ages to come across that. It took me ages to find that 6, 7 meme. I've got like an AI thing that like basically runs trends every day, so I can keep on top of it for my clients. And it come up 6, 7. I was like, what is this 6, 7 thing? It's come up twice. Like 2 days on the bounce, and I couldn't find it. And just so happens I was going through TikTok, and 6, 7, 6, 7, and then yeah, I don't get, and nobody seems to get. And they interviewed the bloke who it's about. I can't remember what his name is, or the main bloke who's in it, and he's 6'7", and he was like, I don't know. I just went viral and I just accepted it. It's mental what happens on social media and how things can blow up like that. Just completely right. Just 2 random numbers. 6, 7. I'm not going viral now, don't I? It's just mad. I just, like I say, I looked at that and I thought this is mental. So usually what I do on the end of this is just go over like an evergreen topic, but I've gone over the time a little bit now, and I think I'm going to switch up. What I'm ultimately doing with these lives at the moment, I can't remember if this is number 6 or 8, but they're in testing phases at the moment, just whilst I sort of build up the repetitions with myself and build up the way that I'm going to format it. But I might drop the Fridays because I think every time I've done one on a Friday, it's been quite low. Understandable because it's Friday, it's been a long week, a lot of people are out, or they're not jumping on YouTube, they might be sitting chilling with the family, they might be out having a drink, whatever it is. So the Fridays might change. Early on in the week seems to do a little bit better, and then later on as the week goes on, it drops off. So it could be the size of my audience, it could just be the times that I'm picking. So I'm going to have a little bit of a play with it. But of course, if you subscribe to the channel, I believe it sends you an alert when I'm doing a live. I don't know. I'm pretty sure. I'm almost sure. I'm relatively positive. So if you want to shoot us a sub and keep on top of these lives, if there's other content or other topics you'd like me to touch on any of these, if you see some headlines, if you see some news, or if you'd like to find out how to market your product, your service using social media, by all means, tune in, drop me a message on any of the platforms that are in the description below. Anybody that took the time to watch, 3 seconds of live, that liked, that subbed, anybody who done anything on the live, honestly, just want to shout you guys out. Really do appreciate it, because I understand you guys have took time out of your day to come and comment and come and look at my channel, which of course I appreciate every single time. So thank you guys again. Have a great weekend, and I'll catch you next week.